good to be with you guys in Longview, Texas on a Saturday afternoon. God bless Texas.
God bless Texas.
God bless Texas. You know, a lot of times you say that over the course of your adult life, God bless Texas, it loses its meaning. You forget that God has providentially, with his guidance and his active hand, brought us to this point in history. And by God's grace, we are where we are. By God's grace, as Texans, we have this identity. Since 1800, Texas never was able to muster more than 1,000 fighting men. And with less than 1,000 fighting men, Texas won its independence, became a nation, became a republic. Texas is in a fight. And a lot of folks don't realize that, because what I keep telling people as I go around the state is nobody's reading the fine print. The fine print is very deadly. Like, for instance, you see a headline that says that the Governor Greg Abbott, and he's been on Tucker Carlson talking about it, is building a wall at the southern border. But if you read the fine print, you find out that he's actually only putting up wall panels on 1.7 miles of private property. You look at the headlines, and it says that we have one of the biggest surpluses of wealth in the history of the state. When you read the fine print, you see that in 7 years, this governor has increased spending by $48 billion. That's not fiscal conservatism. You read the fine print, you see that our spending has grown in the last 7 years by 19%, while our population's only grown by 5.5%. That means spending has gone far beyond the expansion of our population growth. We can't sustain that. People aren't reading the fine print. People see that we're a low-tax state, but they don't realize that we rank 6th in the nation in terms of property tax. They say that this is a great place for opportunity. We actually rank 41st out of 50 as a state that gives opportunity to its citizens. We rank in the high 30s in healthcare, the low 40s in education. We lead the country in nothing. Listen to me, Texas. We lead the country in 0 categories. But yet America looks to Texas. America wants to anchor to the rock that is Texas, because they believe that we believe in liberty here. And I believe we do. Because the spirit of Texas is a hard thing to kill. The spirit of Texas is caught, it's not taught. Once you catch it, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's far more contagious than COVID. You want to give it away. You want more people to fall in love with it. I want people to move here, people with the right values. You want people to come here and experience what Texas is all about. Now, I moved here 21 years ago. I've lived in the city of Fort Worth. I grew up in Georgia, people know that. But I am a pro-life guy. I believe life begins at conception. I believe that at fertilization, that imprint of the image of God is on a human being. And I was conceived in Dallas. So at least my DNA is Texan, okay? And so when I moved to Texas, I knew there was something great about this place. I say that Texas has a humble arrogance. We walk a little bit taller, we hold our heads a little bit higher, chests are stuck out a little bit further. Whenever hurricanes hit, we don't have to be mandated to load up the trucks and go south to help our neighbors. We just do it because that's what we do. We work with each other when we put our shoulder to the plow. We don't stop until the job is done. We have an ethic here. We believe in the spirit of Texas. In the spirit of Texas, I can tell you, after traveling over 200 counties in the last year, we have 254 counties in the state. Traveling 200 counties in the last year, I've seen the fire in the eyes of Texans. I've seen the pulse that beats in their veins for liberty. And I know that this governor, if you read the fine print, you'd know that in the last 18 months, he's violated our constitutional rights 17 times. Now, how many times does it take before you say, that's enough? Now, I've read everything there is that I can get my hands on COVID and SARS-2 and all of these pandemic things. I don't understand any of it. Apparently, neither do the doctors or the scientists. But I've read the Constitution, I've read the Texas Constitution, I've read the U.S. Constitution. I know the Constitution was not written to keep you safe, and the Constitution was not written to keep you healthy. The Constitution was written to keep you free. And anything that keeps me from being free pisses me off.
Yeah.
I like liberty. I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being mandated. I don't like being dictated to. My neck is getting sore from all of the tyrannies I'm experiencing right now. I'm tired of having a boot stepping on the back of it. Now, right now, we have a lot of tyranny because, first of all, Washington, D.C. has put a target on the back of Texas because they're scared we're going to wake up. We have about 6 years before Texas is just like California.
No, not going to happen. No.
If we don't do something now, we've got 6 years. 2022, this gubernatorial election, is possibly and arguably the most important election in the history of America. Listen to me. That's not just words. If you truly believe, as I do, and these other candidates have said as well, that so goes Texas, so goes America, this is the most important one. You have a man who is in this office that the Texas Tribune has called the most powerful governor in the history of the state of Texas. And they said because he sidesteps the legislative process. That's dictatorship. That's unilateral dictatorship. That's exactly what he did last year when he shut the state down, shut the economy down, and deemed you and your business non-essential. If we don't stop this, we're in trouble. People talk about Robert Francis O'Rourke. He's a pinhead. He's a moron. He says he's coming for your guns. Robert Francis O'Rourke can't find his masculinity, much less my AR-15. But I'm telling you, the flip side of the same big government coin has the face of Greg Abbott on it. This guy spent $295 million on contact tracing. That alone is an issue that means he needs to go. That's your taxpayer dollars. How many of you? You know your property taxes are out of control. But he spent $300 million on contact tracing to watch you. That's unconstitutional. He shut down your churches, shut down your ability to go to a funeral, a wedding. You couldn't even go to the gym. I didn't want to go to the gym. But when I sign a contract with the gym, constitutionally, the government can't come in and tell me that that contract's null and void, and that's what he did. That's a constitutional violation. Read the fine print. We're in trouble. 47,000 illegal aliens failed to report in 2021. You know that when they come across the border, they're taken to a processing center and they're slapped on the wrist for coming across illegally, and they're given a notice to report. We had 104,000 that were given notices to report, and then they were given taxpayer-funded plane tickets and bus tickets to go somewhere into the interior of the United States. Almost 50,000 have not reported. Did you think they were going to?
Yeah.
They're given a court date 2 years out. Do you think they're coming back to that? This week, 5 convicted murderers were apprehended in Laredo. 1 rapist. How many do you think have gotten across and haven't been apprehended? No one is coming across that border that's not being backed by the cartels. And this governor turns a blind eye. We got a problem, folks. This big government in Austin right now, it's a blob. And everything it rolls through and touches, it consumes. And it rolls on, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it leaves people like you in its wake. We know that D.C. has a target on our back because they want us to fall. America looks to us. They want to anchor their chain of security and liberty to Texas because they say, if Texas can be free, we can be free. We're the beacon of hope. That's why when you turn the television on, you don't see the border issues happening in New Mexico or Arizona or California. You see them in Texas. They want Texas to fall. They know that Texas has the size, the economy, the leverage, the power, the people, the population, and the priorities to put D.C. back on the right track. This administration doesn't want on that track. That's why Joe Biden will not darken that border corridor of Texas. He's not coming here. His border czar, cackling crazy Kamala, she's not coming here.
Fuck that bitch.
I think it's safe in this crowd to say that President P-Pads and Vice President Knee-Pads don't care about Texas. They want us to fall. And let me tell you something. If things continue the way they are, we're going to fall.
Yeah.
We're going to fall. We're in trouble. We've got educational tyranny. Our kids aren't learning. They're being trained for a test. They get out of school after being indoctrinated in systems of education that are built on the humanistic Deweyan man system of socialism, and we're churning out Marxists, sending them off to progressive liberal colleges and universities of, quote, higher education, being taught and brainwashed further by these academicians who have sat in an academic bubble, tenured for 30 years, never testing their wild-eyed theories in the real world, pushing papers around, teaching your kids. They graduate after 4 or 5 years from a university, deeply in debt with a degree in undecided. They don't know how to think critically. They don't know how to think with complexity. And we're going to sit there and continue to fund this nonsense. And this governor is going to continue to put people on the board of regents that oversee our institutions of higher education, and every single one of them are wild-eyed, wacky, leftist, progressive lunatics. We've got medical tyranny, as we well know. They're trying to force you to have a medical procedure to keep a job or just function in society. We're under corporate tyranny. We're not holding these corporations accountable. We need to write legislation with teeth in it. Because here's the thing. You take United Airlines or American Airlines or Southwest or one of these global companies out there. You think they're impressed by the Supreme Court's decision? They're not. This is an at-will state. They can fire you for putting on the wrong color shoes today and going to work. So if you don't get the boost and the juiced boost, whatever, they can fire you. We've got to pass legislation, not an executive order. That's not worth toilet paper. The executive order is worthless, and we've seen it. Everybody's patting Greg Abbott on the back for signing a piece of paper that means nothing. We've got to pass legislation with teeth in it. And what I mean by that is you're going to lay somebody off until they go get vaccinated. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. If you're going to operate on Texas soil and do business here, we're going to fine your company $25,000 a day for each employee that you're putting off for 2 weeks. That's what I mean by that. We hold these companies accountable. But we've got a governor here who's throwing the doors open to everything from multinational corporations, Chinese entities. He just gave a $795 million tax break to Samsung, a South Korean company, to come in here and make super chips. You didn't get a tax break for doing business, did you?
Nope.
You're a small business. You work for a living. Anybody give you $750 million to have a tax break to do work in Texas? No. Why are you pandering to a South Korean company, Greg? He sent a letter to the CCP, the Communist Party of China, and congratulated them on 70 years of ruling and reigning in the nation of China. This governor did that. He's so deep in it, it's pathetic. He's opened his arms to Facebook and Google and Tesla and Amazon. We're the number 2 subsidizer in the nation of Facebook. Yes, that big thing that shuts down your conservative speech. We give them $165 million a year and then open up the doors in Austin and tell them to come put a headquarters here. But that's bullshit, by the way. We're going to sit there and award this, and you say, well, these are jobs for Texans. No, they're not, because they're going to come in here from Silicon Valley. They're going to bring Silicon Valley values. And when you don't want to get vaccinated, when you go to work for Meta or Facebook or whatever they're calling it these days, you know what they're going to do? They're going to send for their cronies back in Silicon Valley. They're going to bring in people that are already indoctrinated and inoculated to come in here and take those jobs that were intended for Texans. Read the fine print. That's what's going on. It's all in the name of progress. We're going to continue to bail out green energy companies. Well, we know what happens when it gets too cold and the windmills freeze and solar panels get covered up with ice and snow. Last February, when the grid crashed, all because of mismanagement I complained about it on Facebook. Of course I did. That's what I do. And somebody said to me, many people said to me, they said, oh, you poor Texans, you can't handle it when it gets cold outside. I said, it's not that it was cold outside, it's cold inside. People are dying in their homes, all because of this governor's mismanagement. It was being managed by people not even in the state of Texas, some of them not even in America. Our independent energy grid. We are a global leader in energy production here in the state of Texas, and what do? We apologize for it. We're going to subsidize green energy. Those fans they break, and what do? We bail them out. You don't want to do something with those ugly fans? Let's get them off the glorious plains of West Texas. Let's take them down to the border and put them on top of the wall and let that be the last obstacle. Folks, we produce 40% of the nation's oil right here in Texas. 26%, thank you. 26% frack Joe Biden. We've got 26% of the nation's marketable natural gas produced right here in the state of Texas. And we're apologizing for it. We shut down our coal plants. We are the #2 producer of lignite coal in a nation. And we don't have great coal, but it burns. And it'd have been nice last February when we were freezing our asses off if those coal plants had been turned on and we could have cranked the knob and got it toasty in the house. But the problem is we've listened to the crazy lunatics out there and we've made ideologies into policies. And just a few days before the grid crashed, Greg Abbott received a trophy for being the greenest guy in the country. That's an embarrassment. Let's get our power turned back on. Let's make our people wealthy again. Let's push back against Washington, D.C. They want you to fall. Listen, the globalists have already seceded Washington, D.C. away from the Constitution and the American people. They've already taken the federal government from us. We're not being ruled by elected representatives anymore. We're being ruled by 2.5 million unelected bureaucrats that have their greedy fingers in your pockets coming from Washington, D.C. That big sucking sound you hear is $165 billion a year that leaves Texas and goes to D.C. to fund that. And they're going to give you a little bit back every year, smack you on the butt, and you're going to say thank you to D.C. Oh, we need D.C. We don't need D.C. America needs Texas. And they know they need Texas. And they want us to fall in line. I say, screw them. If that makes the cat feel like it's being rubbed the wrong way, tell the cat to turn around. It's time to hold Washington, D.C. accountable with the standards that we have right here in the state of Texas. Let them catch up with our liberty. We can turn that around. We can push this administration to name those cartel members narco-terrorists, to name them an international terrorist organization. You want to solve that problem at the border? My friend Don Huffines the other night, he said, we'll shut it down in 30 days. I said, I'll shut it down in a week. I said, Don, I got itching fingers on some retired Special Forces guys. I sent half a dozen of those dudes down to the border, and they'll secure all 1,200 miles. Do you think our founding fathers would be sitting there while our men and women are getting fired upon every morning and just wave back across the river at those people? Absolutely not. Right now they're under orders. They can't fight back. They can't shoot back. They can't fire back. That's political correctness. That's garbage. You can't solve a complex problem and still be politically correct. You know what we need to do? See, if you talk about the border. Yes, we need to enforce the laws that are on the books. They're not being enforced. We do need to make sure that the Texas National Guard has a very clear mission. Right now, they don't have a clear mission. That's why in the last few weeks, we've had 4 suicides of guardsmen. We've had a 5th accidental suicide, and then we had a 6th attempted suicide that was thwarted. That's because they don't have a clear mission. They're a volunteer army. They've been taken away from their lives, taken away from their families, taken away from their livelihoods with no clear mission. We have 388 people who have not received their payroll. Come on, Greg. Our state guard needs to be equipped. Our DPS, the full forces and resources of both human and material with the DPS needs to be enacted so that they are patrolling 30 miles back from that. from the border itself, 30 miles back, that needs to be a no-go zone for illegals. Absolutely, 100%. When those people try to come across, we stop them at the river and say, no, you're not coming in. But I've seen video of National Guardsmen helping illegals out of the river and into the state of Texas. No. We've got to disincentivize the reason they're coming. Right now they're coming because we got a light turned on for them. You remember the old Motel 6 commercials? Tom Bodette, we'll leave a light on for you. Turn the light off. They're coming for health care. They're coming for welfare. They're coming for education. We're putting them in college classes. We're giving them housing. No. We disincentivize the reason they're coming. We detect when they come. We deter when they come. We detain them. We deport them. And we defend that border. We build a wall where it's possible. It's not possible everywhere, let's be honest. But thankfully, the geography of Texas creates natural barriers that we can enforce. But what we need to have is a human wall. We also need to equip the militias of Texas. That is a constitutional concept. Article 4, Section 7 of the Texas Constitution says that in a situation like this, that the governor of the state of Texas becomes the commander-in-chief, and he can then call up the state guard and the militias, to make sure that our borders are secure. We're being invaded right now. We need to do things internally, like for instance, we need to make sure that our banks in Texas charge a 14%, 12 to 14% transaction fee every time an illegal wants to do business in our banks. And we take that money and we put it in the coffers of Texas. Oklahoma does that right now with 1%. They're making $14 million a year. We got a lot more illegals in Texas, and we can do better than Oklahoma. Yeah. Charge them 12 to 14%. I'll give you one other wild-eyed idea. Let's make a deal with the federal government. Let's hold them accountable. Say, I tell you what, you got these special forces guys, whether they're JSOC, Navy SEALs, whatever, you want to finalize their training. I tell you what, we got a great little training ground down there on the border. You start making the federal government name them international terrorists, and guess what? We can fine-tune our special forces real well right down there in Val Verde County. Del Rio, Eagle Pass. See, these illegals, they're being brought to Texas. They're not just happening to find their way here. They're being brought here. We've got to shut this down. Folks, there's so many issues, so many things that's just putting out the light of liberty that exists in this state. And I'm traveling all over this state. I visit with people every single day, every single night, and I'm starting to see their hope being dashed. Because are they going to get to keep their job? Are they going to be able to make a difference? Is their vote going to count when election day comes? Can they trust the election process? Can they trust the ballot box? And most people don't think they can. A lot of people are just throwing their hands up, wringing their hands, saying, we're not even going to participate in this. Folks, that's got to end. But it's not going to end until we get these incumbents that are sitting in these offices out. I can name 4 men off the top of my head that I trust in Austin. Just 4.
What about me?
We'll see. We got a problem. We got a problem, folks. Normally when our primary elections come around, about 1.6 to 1.9 million people show up at the ballot box. That's not going to be enough this year. We need about 5 million Texans to show up. You want to primary this guy who, by the way, has a black hole of money. People say he's got 65 million. It doesn't matter. It's limitless. He can spend all the money that's going to take. Robert Francis O'Rourke's going to spend $100 million to try to get elected. And let me tell you what's dictating to us. I had a reporter who came to me months ago, and she said, if you make it to Austin, do you think you'd be okay? Because Austin's not like the rest of Texas. I said, well, that's a problem, isn't it? The fact that our capital's not like the rest of Texas, I can look around here. Y'all don't look like Austinites. Yeah.
No.
Y'all look like pretty good folks. I can relate to y'all.
We got one.
I don't know about you. Listen. You're fired up about it, girl. Listen. They say keep Austin weird. Well, when 20% of the population of Austin chooses to live under a bridge, that's weird.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think Austin's like the rest of Texas. But here's the thing, we've got Dallas. We've got the Fort Worth, based on the last two elections, has gone blue. I still think I think Fort Worth is conservative. We got to get rid of that Venezuelan lefty who keeps counting the votes. But you've got El Paso, you've got San Antonio, you've got Houston. Those are all the blueberries in the chili. And the mob rule means that they're going to get their way every time. Now, that's not the way a republic is built. That's not the way we should run things. I believe that we ought to have legislation that's passed so that if you're going to have an amendment to the Texas Constitution, it should be ratified by at least 75% of the counties in the state. That gives you as much say as Dallas. That's the way we ought to be represented. But right now, it's a mob rule. And I'm telling you, those mobs don't share your values. They want to destroy the next generation from everything from abortion to brainwashing with CRT, SEL, pornography in our libraries and our literature, our curriculum. It's bad.
It is.
So when I jumped into this thing last year, and I'm going to hush because I know that the brain can't absorb more than the seat can endure. When I jumped into this thing last year, July of 2020, I was sitting there in South Dakota. I was waiting on the president to come the next night to speak at Mount Rushmore for the 4th of July celebration. I'm sitting across the table from Don Trump Jr. My phone goes off, and I get a news notification that says that Governor Greg Abbott of Texas has now deemed certain businesses and people non-essential. He handed out more mandates. I was drinking a glass of wine. I set it down, and I don't know if it was because I was drinking wine or sitting with a Trump, but I went to Twitter. And I said, I'm going to run for governor. And I went to bed that night and thought nothing of it, but I was dead serious. I made up my mind in an instant. It's like God shone a light upon my soul. And I woke up to a firestorm, and I realized the Texans were ticked off. They wanted something different. And I said in that moment, I said, it's time to get government out of our life. I woke up September 1st with 666 new laws in my life in the state of Texas. Interesting number. I didn't go to bed on September 30th hoping that I was going to wake up the next day with 600 some odd new laws, new regulations, new impositions on me and my freedom. Folks, we got 174 plus state agencies that are there just to spend your money. Anybody here know what an operational fund transfer is? It's the biggest budget item we have. Now, constitutionally, we have to have a balanced budget in the state of Texas. They pass that budget every 2 years in the legislative session. The number one item on that budget is called operational fund transfers. That's $125 billion every 2 years it gets spent. It's a lot of money. You know what it is, though? You got this agency over here, and that agency over here, and that committee down there, and another agency there. And this one gets to spending money, they're spending money, they're spending money. And if one of them runs out of money while this one's got a little bit, they got to make sure that that money gets over there so they can spend it. In other words, they're going to make sure all that money in the budget gets spent. You don't get refunds. Nothing comes back to you because they got to make sure they justify it in the next 2 years so they can get even more from you. That's what's going on. And people say, well, how do you think you can reduce or get rid of property taxes? Well, maybe we cut some damn spending.
Yeah.
We're playing around with big money down there and tossing it around like, oh, we need this. Do we need this?
No.
Does your kid really play better football in a $60 million stadium that rivals Division II campuses? Why are we rewarding this nonsense? Does the DA in downtown Fort Worth need a $124 million office building? Absolutely not. Why are we rewarding this nonsense? Folks, when it comes to property taxes, I believe it's the most immoral tax there is. You never own your land. You rent from the government. Listen, our founding fathers would be rolling over in their grave. They hated the idea that you couldn't own your land. You know who else hated the idea that you couldn't own your land? Is God. You read the Old Testament, he said, I will not tax the people on their land. He said, that land is my promise to you, and it will be an inheritance to your children and your children's children. If the Israelites 6,000 years ago could figure out a way to navigate around property taxes, then surely the greatest conservative fiscal minds and economists in the state of Texas in the 21st century could figure this out. We can do this thing, but the problem is it's gotten so entrenched in our culture, in our way of doing things. We've gotten so used to the government calling on us and we answer, no matter how unconstitutional it is. We just think, oh, well, they got our best interest. The government hates you. They do not have your best interest at heart. Some people say that I'm seditious. Okay. You think the government loves you and it has your best interest at heart? Stop paying them. See how it goes. You ask Rooster, who's sitting in a cell God knows where, if the government loves him. We keep paying them. We keep giving them money. Blood, sweat, and tears, toil, everything we got. Every year, more and more, property taxes through the roof. Folks, I don't like taxes. I believe taxation is theft. But we've got to get back to a point where we are incentivizing private engineers, private companies, people who are innovators to go out there and do the job that we keep trusting the government to do with mediocrity. Let's let the private sector go out there and show us how we can make the roads flat. My God, Texas roads are horrible. And you want to say, well, we got to pay the property taxes on it. Why? So they can pour shit down the street? This is insanity, folks. This is insanity. And we keep doing it year after year, expecting different results. It's not going to be different results. Yes, we can raise a sales tax by 1.5%. Yes, we can raise a gas tax by 0.5%. We can start doing other taxes to replace the immoral property tax. We can have a participatory consumption tax or a value-added tax that gives you your land where you actually own it. But I say right now, we need to start immediately. You're 65 years old, no property taxes. If you're a veteran, no property taxes. Let's start right there. And don't tell me we can't afford this and we can't afford. Yes, they can. $124 billion for operational fund transfers. Let's cut the spending. Let's cut the agencies. Let's make government smaller. Let's take the surplus that's there. Let's buy down the property taxes first. And then let's start finding critical ways that we can reduce it, replace it, and still maintain a legacy of no state income tax. Folks, let's make Texas wealthy again. I want every one of you to be J.R. Ewing. But you can't apologize for what makes us rich and then expect to benefit from it. Folks, there's so many issues that are going on in this state. And it's all because of bureaucracy and big government. It's all because of mismanagement and bad spending. It's all because of government overreach that's in our lives. It's time we say no. I love what Sarah said. No. We're not going to do it. We say to the illegal aliens that are coming across this, and that's not illegal immigration. Immigration is not illegal. If it's immigration, it's legal. If you're coming across illegally, that's encroachment and invasion. We stop that. We say no. When it comes to the taxes going higher, we say no. When it comes to the spending, we say no. When it comes to these incumbents continually being reelected, we say no. Stop saying, I'm going to support this guy or that gal because I know they can win. That's what keeps putting people like Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden and Lindsey Graham back in office. Because you say, well, I'll support them. I know they can win. Screw them. Go after the people that aren't supposed to win. Let's put them in there.
Yeah.
It makes the insiders nervous when guys like me come along.
And it's a good middle finger.
It is a good middle finger. They're scared of me, I can tell you that. They don't like me because I'm politically incorrect. I don't have a filter. I don't care.
Good.
And I'm okay with that. Listen, y'all. Listen, guys. And this isn't bragging. I'm telling you, I've done some crazy things in my life. I've been in the world of entertainment for a long time. I've lived a rock star life. I really have. I've had a good time. And people say, oh, you know what I'm talking about. People say, oh, what about the skeletons in your closet? I burned the closet down a long time ago. I got the skeletons out in the front yard arranged like a Halloween decoration. They're just out there. It's okay. People want to talk about opening more field offices around the state. Mine's a Ford F-250. That's my field office. It's parked right out there. And usually there's a dog in the back of it. That's my field office. I love them too. Listen, I've crisscrossed this state. I've been all over it. I'm in 4 or 5 cities a week. I've seen a lot of miles. I've seen a lot of eyeballs, a lot of Texans in here. Folks, we got to get back to a point where we make the insiders nervous, because when the insiders don't want the outsiders coming in, it's time to make the insiders outsiders. We got to stop this. They're not representing you. They don't care about you. They're mocking you. Your priorities are not being met. And so I say, just like in 1773, when our founding fathers went out into Boston Harbor and they started spilling tea into those cold, dark waters over a 3% taxation, it's time for us patriots to go to Travis County and have an Austin Tea Party.
Yeah.
Don't believe the polls. Y'all can't be polled. They're not polling you. So when you see the little graphs and the pie charts that are being put out there and saying, oh, this is a losing battle, Greg's going to win, or some establishment guy or some big name's going to win. No. The people of Texas are tired of it. They're tired of business as usual. The folks that can't be polled are the ones that are going to show up. We're going to overwhelm the ballot box. We're going to show them that the voice of the little man and woman, the little person out there that's being ignored and walked on, is going to be heard on March 1st. And I want you to set a calendar date. I want you to set it on the 14th. If you can't get to the ballot box on the 14th, set your alarm to go on the 15th. If you can't do it, go on the 16th. But get your butt to the ballot box and vote. Overwhelm it. You've got 2 more weeks to register to vote if you haven't registered. You've got till January 31st. Then you got to get out there and you got to get involved in this primary. We got signs over here. I don't want a dime for them. You want to give to my campaign? Give to my campaign. You can go to Prather2022.com and you can give. The beauty is we can do a whole lot with $5 that other guys are costing $10,000 to do. People say, well, I'm out there talking about you and people have never heard of you. Well, then you better keep talking about me. I've been driving down the street. I feel like the Lord's looking over my shoulder. It's just Don Huffines on a billboard. I love Don. I give Don a hard time. I'm just glad he can finally look down on somebody. But listen, that's a whole other deal. Don's spending a lot of money. And I'm proud of him. I'm glad he is. I was driving through middle of nowhere, Texas today. Coming from South Texas, middle of nowhere, and there's Don's orange signs. I was proud of him. I wish there were a dozen more Don Huffines in this primary race, because it brings Greg Abbott's percentage down. I find it funny that there's a Rick Perry on the ballot, who got put on the ballot by the Huffines campaign, and is polling better than Don. There is a Rick Perry from Springtown, Texas. It's not the Rick Perry, but there is one. He's going to be on the ballot. Don't be fooled by that. That's political games. Read the fine print. Folks, I'm having fun with this thing. I am, because I love this state. This state has been good to me. The seed that I planted in that right soil for me, that soil was Texas. I wouldn't be where I am today without Texas, and I'm thankful for it. I'm a reluctant candidate. I didn't want to do this. But God told me to do this. Amen. Somebody said to me when I got stressed out about 6 months ago, they said, you know you can quit. I said, oh no, I can't. Because this is a conviction. Amen. When God tells me to stop, I'll stop.
Amen.
And I can tell you this unequivocally, yes, if we get to a primary runoff and one of these other candidates is running against Greg Abbott, I will throw my full support behind Don. I'll throw it behind Alan. I'll do that. They're committed to do the same as best I can tell, but I can't speak for them. But I'm telling you that I am. Because I am in anyone but Abbott. And if Greg Abbott wins outright, I'll throw my support behind him. Hey, but I will. That's my commitment to you. That's my commitment to the state of Texas. But I tell you this, I will never look away from what's going on in this state. And I don't have to be in an office to do it. The things I've seen have disgusted me. The seedy underbelly of Texas politics and this big grotesque thing we call government. It's disgusting. And I want to see a change because America's looking to us. D.C. hates us. And the Texas spirit needs us. They need you to be there and to show up. Prather2022.com. You want to feel frisky? Go to Beto22.com. It still comes to me.
I'm always frisky.
We started buying some websites a while back. You never know what all will lead back to Chad Prather. We appreciate donations. Grab some signs, take them. I think Sarah's got some more signs as well. And put them out. Put them out legally, please. And don't tear down anybody's signs. I know I don't have to tell you that, but I saw a Don Huffine sign down on the ground at the gas station the other day. I went over there and put it back up. Listen, and the whole thing is, I'm not running against those guys. I'm running alongside them. I'm running against Greg Abbott.
Abbott out.
Abbott out. And let me tell you, it disappoints me. It breaks my heart to say it. It does, because I voted for the guy twice. I had great hopes for Greg Abbott. But when a time comes when a man is more politician than he is person, we got to change that. So folks, I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. I'm humbled that you're here. I've always said that I will talk to anybody that'll stand still or walk slow. And I'm humbled that you came out. I'm humbled that you supported. I'm thankful for Sarah and her counterpart, Kristen, and the Texas Freedom Coalition. They worked their fingers to the bone to expose the corruption that's going on in state politics. And I'm thankful for folks like Tex and Ant and Barbie and all those other weird names. And I love you too. And I like being able to come out here and have a little fun with you on a Saturday afternoon. Drink a beer, eat a steak, whatever, and just talk about what we love, and that's Texas. So my friends, God bless you. If you want to take pictures later or talk, let's do that. And let me just say this. I'm going to get over here by the exit because I don't trust you. I love you, God bless you, but I don't trust you. But we'll take some pictures. Here's the thing. If you got questions or you got a policy thing or you want to ask them, let's let everybody do the picture thing and then I'll visit. I don't have anywhere to be. I'll talk to you, okay? And I'll visit with you. But thank you. You know, Lou's here. Lou came all the way, 8 hours from Midland? And I hate when I get to calling names because I leave people out, but I'm glad my friends are here. And but I'm just going to finish with 3 words that I want you to still remember and mean it when you say it. God bless Texas.